Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for another Chelsea news, manager news, transfer news, all sorts of other business stuff stream in midweek because we don't play Champions League semi-final between Man City and Real Madrid tonight without our involvement, unfortunately. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't feel too bad. It's like, oh, we didn't quite make it to the semi-finals. It happens, you know, even in our much better years, you don't always make it to the semis. The best four teams, part of it is luck of the draw, luck of the night. It is what it is. But we're safe from relegation. I'm still buzzing off that eye from Saturday. We finally won a game. Still don't think we're going to win another one. But, you know, it is what it is. But there are a lot of things to discuss, especially Mauricio Pochettino's apparently somewhat imminent appointment. Now, we'll discuss how imminent this might actually be, but we will get to that. Aaron, I will start with you. Were you here on Saturday, remind me?
No, I was not.
There you go. So, I mean, I know it's a few days now, but we won a game of football. To be honest, I still can't actually believe it, which I know how depressing that is and how ridiculous that is for a Chelsea fan to say, but like it was March 11th to May 6th in which we didn't win a game. Now, I think there was an international break between that, but still, like nearly 2 months we didn't win a game. Like that was insane. And we finally did against Bournemouth away. Like who would have thought that, eh?
Yeah, it just happened to be that the one time I happened to not watch a game because I was busy is the time that we win. So I think I just have to stop watching for the rest of the season now. I think that's what it was. Yeah. So
the rest of the season, maybe just full stop.
That is also a possibility. I will feel Geordie next year in Europe, so I might be following a different path. But
no, fair enough.
No, it was good to get a win under the belt because it's been so fucking long. We're safe in the division, so we've got something to be happy about again. So yeah, it's all in all could be a lot worse. I mean, granted, it could be a lot better as well. But we're just getting on with it now. Just got to see how the next 4 defeats go, and then that's it, end the season. So we get a little bit of a respite before a chaotic pre-season and hopefully a big clear out, which will be quite interesting to see. That's literally what we've got to look forward to now. So all the news about transfers, ins and outs, really. That's the most important thing.
Exactly, absolutely, and arguably outs are even more important than ins, which is weird. But first, before that, we need to actually get a manager over the line. Pice, I'll get to you. Thank you, Charlie, for joining us, by the way, as well. We'll get to you in a second, mate. But yeah, Pice, there's been a few places that I've, over the last couple of hours, talked about this Mauricio Pochettino appointment being very imminent, being very close. I'm not quite sure the very most reliable reports have quite worded it as that, like, close to being done. But still, it seems like we're finally about to get there, doesn't it? Especially the follow-up tweet from Sami Mokbel here, where they're basically stating, which is from yesterday, saying that there is hope that Pochettino can be confirmed by the end of this week. So what is your level of information at this point? Like, when about do you think we're going to hear something finally?
I haven't really heard anything personally on the manager, to be honest. So I find it to get harder news on the manager, more like players and who the like scouting team are looking at. But I think Fabrizio said, you know, yesterday goes on a show like an app called onana, I think. He like takes calls from like questions from listeners and calls from listeners, and he said that the contract is like with Pochettino's lawyers. So for me, that means that they've agreed on a contract, and now it's in like the formal like paperwork like process and stuff. Yeah, so like if it's with Pochettino's lawyers, then I think it should be done by the end of this week. I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, it's only Tuesday now, so you know, and he said that on Monday. So I think he should be in stands for the weekend. Some people might say it's a bit of a tight turnaround, but I don't know. I don't really know also how long this sort of stuff takes, but usually it doesn't really like. I don't think it should take long.
It didn't used to take long in the old regime. No idea how long it takes now, but
yeah, like I don't know. I think it should be done by this week. To be honest with you, like I don't really know what's like. Even if it's not like, you know, club statement, like surely we get like a, you know, like a here we go from Fabrizio or someone like that, because you know that should really happen when everything's agreed. And I mean, if it's with his lawyers, then surely everything is agreed, right? So I don't really know what we're waiting.
It's a good point. Maybe that tells us it's not quite all agreed. Otherwise, we might have got the here we go from Fabrizio already. When you think about how soon he sometimes gives here we goes. Think of Nkunku. Fabrizio told us a here we go about that in November, December time. We still haven't heard anything official, even though obviously the Leipzig manager has basically confirmed it, saying, "Oh, it's good for him to still get some goals before he leaves." Blah blah blah. So we know it, but no one has made it official. Now, Pice, we know that you've been at the beginning very much against Poch. I assume, as it has been for everyone, whether they were pro or against him, a bit of a realization, acceptance that it will be him has set in for all of us, whether that's people view that positively or negatively. But has your opinion on Poch coming in and becoming the new manager, have you gotten used to the idea, or you're still kind of not hoping for someone else, because I think you're as realistic as anybody else and know that it will be him, but have you found more positives to clutch on, I guess, and to hope for his reign at Chelsea?
So what was that, bro? I didn't quite catch it.
Basically, like, have you changed your mind? At the beginning you were quite against Poch, and like, has enough time passed for you to be like, yeah, I have to be on board, I will be on board, and what brought you on board, if anything?
I mean, I don't know. There's obviously an element of like, we can't really do anything about it now, so like, what's the point, like sulking and moaning type thing? But like, I do see the positives. I did see some positives back then. I mean, the development of young players and stuff like that is definitely, I even said, like, when we was talking about Nagelsmann being favourite and stuff like that, I was saying, like, actually, I think Poch, if you just look on the base of it, probably suits our squad the most. And then obviously he became the favourite, like a week later. So I don't know. I've definitely talked about it before, but I'm trying to get past this like element of like what could go wrong. And I don't know. There's still some elements that I think if he doesn't hit the ground running, it definitely will get toxic. But I don't know. I have a little bit more sort of, I guess, hope now that it will start well, and therefore the fans will like, give him a bit of time, because I think one game a week and then like the preseason should really help as well. Hopefully, I mean, we've got a lot of preseason fixtures back to back, like and some people will say, well, that's what preseason's for and stuff. As part of that, yeah, I'm just hoping obviously the locations are more closer together, and because I do think the preseason is a huge part of how the season starts. I think that's undeniable. So if we have a good preseason and we get people out the door, and I mean, a lot of players, like, this is what I'm kind of scared about, is like, we're not going to be able to sell the players because all the clubs know we have to sell players, so then it's going to be hard. So if we get enough players out the door and the right additions in, I think it could be a very good season, but there's a lot of ifs there, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do agree with that. I think a lot of people do need to go. I can't remember if we spoke about this on my stream, whether it was maybe on Charlie's stream or whatever, but I do remember reading like a while back that, yeah, with Stanley and Laurenz Stewart, they are like, basically given the job, I guess, of making sure we get rid of all the players, but they are also part of getting Poch. So I'm like, this is another reason why I'm still, like, if I'm honest, still a little bit annoyed. Like, it's May 9th now, and we still haven't had it confirmed. When did we sack Potter? Like, early April, was it? Like, it's a long time ago now. Like, come on now. You can't, if you always work this slowly, we're never going to get anywhere. Let's just make it very clear here. And if they work remotely close to this slowly in trying to get rid of players, well, we will sell about too. So I hope that in the summer they do get their, they do get, I don't know, like, just a bit, ramp up the speed of doing things. Charlie, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much. Your thoughts on, like, are you expecting Poch to be done now? Are you at this point a little bit annoyed that we haven't had confirmation of anything now? Like I just said, how long has it been since we sacked Potter and we still don't have anything confirmed? Which is like I say, May 9th. Like, at some point it becomes a little bit ridiculous. We have so many players to get rid of. We need to get going on that. You don't just get going on that once the transfer window opens. We need to start sorting that out beforehand.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think there's always a slight concern that, the manager ultimately needs to decide who he does want to keep. I don't think we can just be allowing Win Stanley and Vivella, whoever it is, to lead the clear out. I think there's got to be some direction from the manager as well. Like, he's got to decide who he doesn't want. Yes, we've all got our ideas and our feelings about who needs to go and who should be going, but ultimately the manager should be deciding that. There's a chance that, Poch might want some of the players, or might want to keep some of the players that we all think should go. And whether we like it or not, I think we're in a situation now where we have to accept that if the manager wants to keep a couple of the players, one or two, or however many it might be, then we do need to accept that. But it's a bit frustrating, really, because it's been going on for so long now. I'm not worried about it falling through or him changing his mind or anything, but I don't really know why. I don't really know what the hold up is. Like people were like, oh, they're waiting for us to get 40 points or whatever it is, or waiting for us to win a game or whatever things people are saying. Like, I don't really understand what the hold up is. I mean, as long as we don't take too long with it, because as you say, you're like planning for the transfer window. It doesn't just start once the window opens. It starts now. It should have started a while ago. Like, you need to know who the manager is, so you can start planning for the window. Poch don't want to turn up on day one and just be like, oh yeah, by the way, we've bought these guys for you. Like, yes, some of the players he might want to work with, but he needs to have his say on who he wants, and we need to be targeting those players now. So whilst we still don't have a manager officially announced, you do have to worry slightly. We might be getting left behind in the race for certain players that we could be interested in. So whilst I do still expect it to go through, like, it is a bit frustrating that we're kind of still in the same situation we were a few weeks back, and seemingly nothing's really changed in that regard. So I do think we need to get a move on so that we can kind of start planning for the window, and Poch can start saying, look, I don't want these guys. I do want these guys. Go and do your thing.
No, I agree, man. I mean, I've always maintained, and I still maintain, that there are certain non-negotiables, which, even if Poch was like, I'd rather keep them, I'm like, well, unlucky, mate. You can't have everything type thing. Like, certain players must get gone. And others where I'm like, okay, if he wants to have, where they're kind of like on the cusp, do they go, do they stay type thing, maybe he will have some input into that. Apparently, according to Matt Law, he's best friends with N'Golo Kante, which is about the weirdest report I've ever seen in my whole life, because they apparently have a bromance. Not quite sure how Pochettino's appointment can help to steal Chelsea's efforts to get Kante steal over the line. That is another weird one, by the way. Like, how long ago, flipping hell, have they told us that that's basically happening, and he's, signing a new contract? Months, absolute months. We still have nothing, essentially. And imagine Georgie and Kante go. Now, at least, I guess, we got 10 mil for Georgie. But imagine, like, no, it was stupendous. But I wouldn't put it past our ownership, because I'm not quite sure they fully grasped the importance of experience in football yet, considering everyone they're trying to sign other than Aubameyang and Sterling, who have been the worst too. Oh, and Koulibaly, who's the next first one, outside of maybe Cucurella, are all young. So I'm like, well, but you're getting rid of all the young players, and you're only you're getting rid of all the old players, and you're only signing young players. Where the flip is experience and winning going to come from? But that's a whole different matter. I mean, Aaron, I didn't read the article, so I'll let Pi speak about it in more detail in a second. But just when I saw this headline, I'm like, sorry, how and where are Pochettino and N'Golo Kante supposed to have created a bromance? Like, who believes that?
Bro, I think I have as much of a bromance with Kante than Pochettino does. I think that's a load of shit, to be honest.
Bro, you're a Chelsea fan. Surely you will have much more of a bromance with him than Pochettino does, no?
Mate, he doesn't even know who the fuck I am, and I've still got more of a bromance with him.
Exactly, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that it's such a stupid report. Like, it makes zero sense. I think it's just people are just fishing for something to talk about, a bullshit headline. Not the first time we've seen something like that, but I don't understand sort of the correlation it will have in anything that happens with Kante, because ultimately, if he wants to stay, he'll stay. I don't think the manager is going to make too much of an impact, because he's had the contract offer on the table for a while now. So I don't know whether that whole hold up has been, okay, who's going to be the manager? But if it has, then it's kind of like, I get it to a certain degree, because you want to know who you're going to be working with. But then it's also like, you've had the offer for so long. Surely if you love the club and you want to do this, that, and the other, then you would just sign it and it wouldn't matter to you. But, well, I guess we're going to find out shortly when ever they decide to confirm Pochettino. But yeah, it's a lot of the reports that are going out have been such bullshit. I've not even tuned into a lot of it myself. I think it's so pointless. The only thing I do is just check Pice's Twitter. That's the go-to place in case for the people in the live chat.
But sometimes I want to laugh about stupid reports. You know what I mean? And if Pice doesn't report the stupid reports, then I need to see them from Matt Law myself.
Yeah, this is why the people just need to follow Pice on Twitter, and that's where you get all your information from.
I actually should have posted this, but I don't know. I think sometimes, like very rare cases, I missed like a report or something. Like I was
Well,
out,
and it
and I was
happens.
like,
you can't be looking at
yeah.
Twitter 24/7.
I was like- but then, to be fair though, I read it and I was like, yeah, this is just stupid. Like, is this some like club PR piece? Like, oh, Matt Law, by
I
the
mean,
way,
you read
like,
the whole piece. Does the piece itself make it a little less ridiculous than the headline does?
well,
No, it's a bit weird. I read it as well. It's like it's really short, and
yeah, it's like Kante was understood to relish the chance of playing under Pochettino at PSG or something like that. Some bullshit like that. I don't know. It's not like if Kante was ever going to move to PSG, it would just be to go back to like live in Paris and stuff and be at France.
Nothing to do with any manager.
like I get all the PR for Pochettino. They did it for Tuchel. They did it for Potter. But like, come on, make it a bit less obvious. Like seriously.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? It
It said like Kante's like has like admiration for Pochettino. I'm not saying Kante doesn't know Pochettino, but like really like who's told you that? Kante himself? Like, come on. I doubt Kante says anything about managers. Like, I'm sure he just keeps quiet.
No, exactly that. Do you know what I mean, but to be fair, it's another thing where I'm like, if apparently Pochettino's appointment could help Chelsea's effort to seal Kante's deal or to get Kante's deal over the line, and the same they say about Mason Mount, and God knows how many others they say this about, it makes it even more ridiculous that we haven't, finalized the whole Poch thing yet. Like, I still can't, like, unless he had certain, like, doubts or whatever that we had to kind of help him get over, then that's kind of fair enough because that's something he controls and not the club. But if it's just us moving slow, because like we some of us had the like, is it a conspiracy theory, whatever, the idea that maybe it had to do with we needed to be mathematically safe before we announce anything, finalize anything, fair enough. But okay, it might happen this week, but it's still 3 days ago now, and essentially we have nothing. So it's just strange. I mean, Charlie, you said it was just a weird piece, but I mean, what do you make of a bloody Kante and Pochettino bromance? That sounds like a load of horse crap to me. I can't lie.
I don't really know, mate. Of course, they've both been in the world of football for a long time. Like it's not unreasonable to think they could actually know each other and they could be reasonably good friends. I don't think that's not a ridiculous thing to put out there. I don't know. You read certain things and you think like it's just a bit odd, really. Not like I'm not saying it's like not true or it couldn't be true. But
like if it was true, right, and Matt Law would have any indication of that, surely he would give actual like, oh yeah, they go out for dinner every few months or whatever.
I don't know.
Like, he wanted to join PSG maybe because I'm like, what?
Well, he's obviously got this information from somewhere. Unless he's completely made it up, which. I mean,
I don't think he made it up, but I think it's like what a lot of these journalists do, especially when they just have to fill certain quotas in terms of how many articles, how many words, blah, blah, blah. They just interpret things into a bit of information that just isn't there. Like,
there's not really much
Kante nearly or was potentially could have joined PSG while Poch was there. And now, bromance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, to be honest. It is a bit of an odd one. Look, I think with Kante though, we had reports months ago that he wanted to stay, and a deal was close to being agreed. Now it's kind of all gone quiet.
Yeah. Let's didn't want to say if he got relegated. You know what I mean,
yeah, maybe, but let's just wait and see what happens on this one. I still think he probably will end up staying at the club, but the longer it goes on with it being unresolved, then I guess the more you worry a little bit that actually maybe he won't, but. Yeah, it was just a strange article. It's kind of there wasn't really that much. There was no new information in there apart from the Poch thing. Nothing that we didn't really already know.
No. There you go. I want to get to the next story, and a story that really irks me. And I'm not sure if it necessarily irks everyone as much as it does myself, and that's totally fair. Everyone will have their own opinion. That's okay. But to me, this is so ridiculous, and. When I hear this, when I read this, I'm like, has Bowley and Barley, whoever makes these decisions, have they completely lost the plot? Like, have you not made yourself look stupid enough for the last year to sign a player that told us to go do one, that told us to F off a year ago because Barcelona. And now we're like, yeah, you can come anyway a year later. Absolutely no chance. I don't care how good he is. He could be the best flipping player in the world. You can't, all our fans spoke about this. We have standards. this is where standards are serious. Like winning, not winning, there's an opponent who you actually have to beat. This is like where it's not all under your own control. Whether you choose to sign a player or not is most certainly under your own control, whether you approach the guy or whether you chase the signing or not. Like, to me, this is just mental. Like, I mean, I made the analogy on Twitter. Like, would you chase a girl after she's turned you down a year before? Like, no, you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't, because you have your own standards, man.
Depends how desperate you are.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. But we're not even that desperate for wingers anyway. You know, if this was Declan Rice, fair enough. But like, let's put it this way, right? Ziyech and Pulisic most likely are both going to leave, right? Yeah,
I think that's pretty.
Let me maybe add to that before you finish your point. I have no problem with necessarily going after another winger. Fair enough if you want a winger, but not Raphinha. Since last year, he's now just, for us, he should be off the market in my mind.
Yeah, no, I hear that. But what I would say is that, like, two things. Firstly, a Brazilian or a South American player turning us down to go to Barcelona, that's to be expected. You know, these Latin players.
It's to be expected, but that doesn't make it any more acceptable to bring him back a year later now.
No, but what I would say is that I think there actually is a bit of scope here for a potential deal, and why I think it could possibly make sense. Two reasons is, one, I think you could argue that we do need another wide player, potentially. I don't think, look, whilst it might not necessarily be an absolute priority, I think if the money's there and the right player was available, then we would potentially look to do it. Because at the moment, you'd be looking at your only out-and-out wingers as Sterling, Madueke, and Mudryk. You could argue there's space for one more. Yes, you could use Nkunku there in situations. You could use Mount there if he stays. Yeah. But there's potentially space for one more. And then absolutely at the reported 80 million euros fee, absolutely not. But where I think there could be an opportunity is Barcelona want Aubameyang. There's interest in Ziyech reportedly as well from their side. You know that they do like to do kind of player swap deals or swap and cash. They're more likely to do that than, say, other clubs. I think if we could maybe find a deal where we use Aubameyang and Ziyech or just Aubameyang and plus a bit of cash to get Raphinha. Barca need to raise money to try and bring Lionel Messi back. Raphinha is one of their only sellable assets in terms of retaining any value. And whilst they might not want to let him go, their ultimate goal is to bring Messi back. So if they have to get rid of Raphinha, they will. So I get some of your points, and I think at the reported price tag, absolutely not. But I think there is scope where you could work a favourable deal to get Chelsea. And like Pice tweeted out last night, I wouldn't be that disappointed if we were to go into next season with our four wingers as Mudryk, Madueke, Sterling, and Raphinha. I think that's a pretty good set of wingers, and I think Raphinha has got a decent skill set and could definitely make an impact. So, whilst I still think a deal is potentially unlikely, I actually think, it's not as bad as people might think it would be. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily mad from like a logical perspective. In could this happen? Barca need money. We need a winger. Absolutely, I understand it from that perspective and from that logic, but I don't think we should be entertaining helping Barca in this situation, because there's not just one winger in the world. Again, this is my opinion. It's absolutely fine if people see it differently. That's totally fine. But Aaron, how do you see this one? Like, are you on my side on this, where it's like, don't go for a player that, like, and not just turned you down, but a player who we found an agreement with his club, and he was like, nah, and was like waiting until Barcelona finally did also agree a deal with Leeds, and then went to Barca and told us to basically go do one. I'm like, we want players that all season we've cried about. Oh, these players don't care. They don't try hard enough. If you don't want to be here, leave. I mean, sorry, but if you can't say that all season long and then be okay with signing Raphinha, in my opinion, because that just contradicts itself, because Raphinha's already proven that he doesn't give a shit about us. So, like, unless he stays for enough years that changes, which theoretically, of course, it could, but from the get-go, it won't be any different. Like, he told us to F off last year. He's not going to flip and try as hard for us as he did for Barca, purely for apparently he doesn't care as much. Like, all season, our fan base has complained about players not trying hard enough, and then we want a player that told us no a year ago. To me, that's just ridiculous. Like, he told us no when we were in the Champions League. No, we're not. Now you think he's going to give a shit? Do you know what I mean?
I think for me, more than anything, I don't really give a shit about all of that stuff. For me, it's just I don't really rate him as a player, so I don't have much interest in him joining us. Like he went to Barca for a shitload of money, very underwhelming whenever I've seen them play. Granted, I don't watch Spanish football all the time, so maybe I just catch him on his off days, but it doesn't blow me away at all. So for me, it's not something I would really want to be entertaining. I think there's a lot better options out there, and if you're going to look at somebody within that price range, he's not going to be cheap because he's only just signed for Barca a year ago, so they're going to want a fair bit of their money made back up for him. So it's still going to cost us a pretty penny, and I just don't see him as being worth that. So I would just avoid it anyway. But I do get what you're saying as well in terms of when your club's made an approach for somebody and then they reject you, it's kind of like, okay, they don't want to join you, and then suddenly, now that you're a convenience to the club that he's joined and they're looking to sell to make a bit of money, then you might be like, okay, yeah, I don't mind. But at that point, you'd feel like it's a bit too late because you've had your opportunity. You could have joined beforehand, but now you chose to go somewhere else, and now because it suits your club, you want to join that. It's a bit of a shitty one, to be honest.
Yeah, no, there you go. And Flo, yes, of course, I will be even harsher when it comes to Lukaku. Now, Lukaku is different in the sense that we already own him, and that if Inter don't want him, we can't do nothing about him coming back, and then we need to find another place for him to go. And if we can't, there is a way in which he stays. We don't need to pay extra money to bring Lukaku back. But trust me, I will be even harsher on Lukaku if he's here. Like, Lukaku needs to score 17 goals every game for me to get on board with that guy again. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, for me, it's very different to you, Aaron, because to me, I don't mind Raphinha as a player. I think he's a good player. Obviously, it all depends on how much he'd cost and stuff, but considering Barcelona need money so desperately, I don't think the transfer fee would be that crazy. But for me, like I say, I don't mind him as a player. I think he's a good player. I think he would bring things that would be quite useful for us. But like I say, there's certain standards that we need to hold. And I'm like, there's wingers who are equally as good, if not better than Raphinha, who we can also go get. So to me, it's like, why would if I have other options, why would I go for someone that's...
Who would your other options be, out of interest?
It's a good question. Let me think about it.
We're thinking about right wingers.
I mean, one other thing we need to say is Raphinha even interested in us again? Again, we're not in Europe. If Newcastle are interested, they are. So is he even interested in coming back? Because that's obviously part of the problem in terms of what kind of level of winger is realistic. Because now, if you ask me that question, you're like, what player that's of a similar level to Raphinha is also possible? I'm like, fair enough. That's actually a difficult question. I'm not really sure who I would say then. But do I actually believe that Raphinha would even want to come? He already told us to go do one once when we were in Europe. Now we're not. I don't really see him wanting to come here, if I'm honest. But I don't have a straight up answer to you, if I'm honest.
Would you have Kolo Muani?
He's a striker and he's like 100 million, bro.
No, but like just in principle, would you take Kolo Muani? I know he's like a bit more of a forward. He's a bit more versatile. But would you have it? Would you rather have him?
Absolutely not. No chance.
Why not? Why are you so adamant against Kolo Muani?
Well, Kolo Muani is a forward. He's like 20. He's extremely unproven. Raphinha,
no, Kolo Muani is 24, bro.
Yeah, okay, well, he's still young. Raphinha, you got to remember,
he's good. I like Raphinha.
Raphinha is Premier League proven, bro. You see how good he was for Leeds. Like, that's the biggest thing for me.
That's not Premier League proven. Having one good season in the Premier is not Premier League.
But
he was ridiculous.
Premier League proven.
Yeah, but he's been. No, but what I would say at Barcelona, and people can say what they want about La Liga, he's actually been very good for Barcelona this season.
Plus goal contributions,
and he's come up clutch in a number of key moments for him as well.
He got 2 assists against Man United in the Europa League. I'm watching that game.
Like, again, I'm sure. Like I said, I'm not. My problem isn't Raphinha not being good enough. That's not my issue. My issue is, first of all, I don't think he will want to come anyway. And this is some random interest, like we're fucking interested in Messi, who will not give a shit about us and not want to come here. It's obviously very different calibers of players we're talking about, but their interest in coming to us will be very similar, in my mind. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it. I wouldn't have an issue with Kolo Muani. It'd be very expensive. Kolo Muani should only be entertained if we, for some reason, I say for some reason, but if we can't get Osimhen, if we can't get Ivan Toney without a crazy ban, if we can't get Harry Kane, then maybe you should entertain Kolo Muani if you still want a striker. But
who would you rather have out of Raphinha or Marcus Thuram?
Well, Thuram again is a left-sided
I mean, he
player
plays on
or a
the other
striker.
side, yeah. So Thuram is more for the left, but in terms of
You're thinking about Raphinha. If we're interested in him, like Fabrizio saying, you're thinking about a right winger. The only
yeah,
other right winger I think on the market, I really like the look of Edwards at Sporting. I think he's a really good player.
Oh yeah.
But again, he is someone who's young. I think Raphinha, if we can get the price right, and there isn't too much like again, I understand what you're saying, Lauren, in terms of like, he's not going to give a shit. He didn't want us, but like it was between us, Arsenal, and Barca, right? So like Arsenal fans, he turned them down as well. So like maybe like I
but
don't
they
know.
didn't agree a fee with Leeds, though.
I don't know. I don't know, but I don't think
It's a bit
it's
harsh.
as deep
I
as you
don't.
think.
Marco Marini is not better than
The
Raphinha.
German Messi.
Yeah. Sorry, Pies, go on.
No, I just obviously I don't know because I don't know Raphinha, but I don't think it's as deep as you're making it out to be in terms of like he rejected us, he doesn't like Chelsea, he doesn't want us, he won't come back, sort of thing. Like,
Oh, no, I agree. I don't think necessarily it's a case of that he has a particular problem with us. I think it's just a case of principle. If you didn't like us last year, don't bother coming this year. That's
he
how I
may
see
have
it.
liked us, he may just have liked Barca more.
No,
like,
no, okay, but
I
didn't
don't
like us enough to choose to come to us, regardless of like with my analogy. If a
Yeah.
girl likes you, but she likes someone else more, are you going to go back for a year later? No, you're not.
If
Do you know
she's
what I mean?
fit, then you probably would.
Yeah, but you shouldn't.
But
If you have standards in yourself, you
Barca,
shouldn't.
though. Barca and Real Madrid, I think, are exceptions for any player. Like, if it was like say Raphinha joined, I don't know, fucking. Say joined Arsenal or something like that instead of us, and then it didn't work out Arsenal, and they were going to sell him to us. Very unlikely, but I'd agree with you. Then I was like, no, I don't want him. But like he chose someone who historically,
But
literally.
let's not forget where Barcelona were last year. We were in the Champions League; they were in the Europa League.
Yeah,
right?
but it's Barca, bro. They never
I don't
lose.
care. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but players do
I
care.
don't give a
Players
shit.
do give a shit though. It's Barca.
Yeah,
it's
that's
Real
fine.
Madrid, they're two
That's
biggest
fine.
clubs in
But
the world.
his opinion doesn't matter to me. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not my problem. I'm a Chelsea fan, not a Barcelona fan. If you weren't willing to come last year, like I say, I still can't see him wanting to come here now. Like Barcelona winning the league, why would he want to leave Barca for someone that's not even in Europe? Like
He
why
might
would
have
he do that?
to for Messi to come back.
No. But he will. I'm not saying he will refuse to leave Barcelona, but I'm sure he's a good player, as we all agree. So I'm sure there will be bigger clubs, or not bigger clubs, but clubs that are in Europe that will want him. Newcastle being one example. Why would he pick us over Newcastle right now? Why would you? I wouldn't if I was
Again,
him.
I think I think we'll see this summer. I don't think it's about our season we've had this season. I think it's about the longer term and our project. And I think with a new manager as well, being Chelsea, London as well is such a huge distraction. People always doubt this, but it literally is a deal breaker most of the time. So I think Raphinha would choose us over Newcastle if it came down to it. I may be wrong, but I think he would just because of the long term. And it's not to say Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle have a very good project, but it's Chelsea. We're bigger than Newcastle.
I don't think that a player that, because if the long-term project was the decisive factor for him, he would have already chosen us last year, And I know Barca is a different beast, but if he cared about long-term projects, then he would have already chosen that last year, in my opinion. Like I say, you made a good point in terms of who else do you go after then for a right winger? Fair enough. But I'm not the scout. Figure out someone else than Raphinha. I mean, Raphinha ain't even young. He's 26. Is he good enough to be basically in his prime?
I think we need someone like that, though. I don't want any of these.
Yeah, but he's not
young
experienced. He's 26 and still not experienced, which is where it's an issue.
I think he's, I think 26 is a very good age.
It's a very good age.
I know.
What has he done for 26? A relegation fight with Leeds.
Yeah, but he's a very good player, though, bro. So
he's a very good player, but a lot of people
you don't get a move from Leeds to Barcelona if you're not a really good player.
But this I don't understand why you keep going back to he's a very good player. That's not the point. Like again, I don't disagree that he's a good player.
Yeah, but you're saying what's he done? Well,
I'm just saying in terms of what's making him like being 26. What's he done considering he's 26? That's what I'm trying to say. Do you know?
Yeah, but that can be used for other players as well that have then took bigger leaps once like Mendy. What did Mendy do before he signed him? Nothing.
Exactly, and did it for 1 year.
Well,
Mendy is the best example. Thank you. So it's literally like, all right, careful because Raphinha might be another Mendy, and we don't want to see him again after he plays.
Well, if he's another Mendy, then he either wins a huge award or wins us the Premier League, considering we're not in the Champions.
Unless he's already had his good season out at Barca, not with us, right? There's the only issue then. Because Raphinha's done more than Mendy by 26.
I would. My conclusion is I would take him for the right price, not 70 million. I'd take him for 50. I think that'd be a good price for him.
Yeah,
that's roughly what we bidded in the summer.
Yeah.
I think we bidded 55. Was it? We accepted 55,
and chuck Aubameyang in as well.
Yeah, I mean, if we can chuck Aubameyang in, even better. So, but I don't know. The one thing I don't like about this is Deco, because that guy was a right prat in the summer to us. Like, and now he's going to try and deal with. I actually don't like. I just like Deco more than Raphinha at the moment because of how he dealt with it last summer. That was so annoying. Like, he had a deal agreed with us, and he's still trying to get Raphinha to Barca. Like, I know they act on players' interests, but he had a huge affiliation with Barca as well. So like, it just felt like he was trying to drag him there more than anything as well during the summer. Because I remember all the reports; it was crazy. It was like Deco's trying to do this. He's in Barcelona's offices every day. It's like fucking hell. Like,
maybe he was just trying to. Maybe he was just trying to send Raphinha on the same career path to see him go Barca and then go Chelsea after.
Maybe we'll see.
Maybe. I mean, we don't know why Deco did that. Deco might have been in Barca's offices every day on Raphinha's instruction type thing. Find me a way to go to Barca type logic. We don't know, I guess. But yeah, enough Raphinha talk. I guess if we sign him, we sign him. If we don't, we don't. If we sign him, I won't particularly be happy about it. I'll be honest. And then I'll not because he's not a good enough player, more because I'm like, I just don't like. We've looked, our club has looked so bad for the last year, so bad, more than the last year. Is that really what we should be doing? A player that turned us down a year ago? Can we not find a different player? I don't know. Even if I understand that he's a good player, figure it out. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah. I mean, another thing that you've literally posted as we were streaming Pice is a report from the Mirror. Not really sure how much I believe in the Mirror, but sure. He says, Pochettino wants to rebuild Chelsea from the back and use the back four with Kante key in providing protection. They clearly weren't trying to word it as Kante is going to be the sixth, which he won't be. But the whole use a back four, well, I don't even that's what he's used for the most part in his career. But Tuchel also did until he joined us, and then all of a sudden now he's a back three match and then does back three at Bayern all the time. Not in basic formation, but when you see how they actually line up, it's always back three. It's weird. But yeah, so I don't know what to make of this one, but I guess a lot of it will also depend on what Poch needs, right? Like, is he actually going to go for back four? That makes us really need another winger, unless one of the three mentioned stays, whether that's Pulisic, whether that's Hudson-Odoi, whatever. But if we play a back three, then do we even need another winger? Right, so that is a decision that needs to be made first. But also, we get constant reports. We want not too many signings. We want a goalkeeper, a defender, and a midfielder, and a striker. All of a sudden, we're linked to a winger again. I'm like, what? Do you know what I mean? Like, Chelsea Football Club, please actually act as a unit. Like, it just seems like part of the people in charge of us want this, and part of the people in charge of us want that, and it just seems like it's a whole clown show at times.
We won't get a winger unless Ziyech, Pulisic, and Hudson-Odoi all leave, which again I think is very possible. Hence why we're getting these links.
Yeah, but still, we had the report also that we want to sign no more than 2 or 3 players, and we want those to be a striker, a goalkeeper, and a midfielder.
Yeah, but those are labelled as key targets. It doesn't mean you can't then go and get someone else dependent on your squad situation.
I mean, no, I mean, nothing means anything, I guess. But in terms of, they're saying we want 2 or 3 signings, not we want 2 or 3 signings, but if we manage to sell 15 of our players, we might need 3 more. At least I'm not saying that can't happen, but that's not what's been reported, especially by the journalists that seem to be the mouthpiece of the football club. So,
well, maybe it's good PR then, because if everyone knows we want 7 signings again, everyone's going to.
But we shouldn't get 7 signings. Like, it would be much better if we got 2 or 3.
No, I know. 3. Yeah, I know. I agree.
Would be much better. Like, we shouldn't overdo it again. It would just cause issues again. Like, we signed so many of these young players. You might as well, if you sign another one? Then what's the point of Madueke? You signed him to be fucking backup, which he's not going to be happy with for long term, and in a year's time you'll want to leave. And then what? Like, what was the whole point then?
People forgetting his injury record, though, bro. Like, his injury record.
It's true. It's very true. It's very true. Let me get to the next piece of news. What is it? Shall we talk about that one? I guess we'll talk about that one. Chelsea have reopened talks of extending Mason Mount's contract. At the moment, Mount is after more money than Chelsea are prepared to offer, but that could change depending on Pochettino's stance. Now, some other, I think it was Felix, maybe there was like Johnson, maybe it was some other people as well that seem to claim that Pochettino really wants Mount. I think, if purely thinking logically, I think it would make a lot of sense if Pochettino would want Mount. Charlie, your thoughts on the whole Mount's contract negotiation? I think it's good, okay, that they restarted negotiations. What are you feeling? What's your gut feeling at this point? Do you think he's going to end up signing a new contract, maybe a shorter term contract, and stay, or do you see him leaving in the end?
I think he'll end up staying. But again, I think there could be a compromise on the length in terms of, I think maybe he'll agree a short-term extension and then they'll work on something that'll buy him a bit more time to try and work out something more in the longer term, in a season or like in a couple of seasons' time, for example. But yeah, the whole Mount contract thing is pretty boring. We'll get our answer pretty soon. I think for me, it's clear that we should be keeping him. Yes, he's had a bad season, but name me a footballer that's never had a bad season, other than maybe Messi or Ronaldo. But do you know what I mean?
Like, he's had a bad season. He's had a bad half a season because for the rest of it, he was fucking injured.
Yeah, this is what I mean. So this is the first shit bit of form that he's been in his career, and like people are like on his back big time. I'm just like thinking, hang on a second, like footballers can have bad seasons or bad patches of form. It doesn't mean they're shit. And Mount quite clearly isn't shit. Like, he's a good player. He's shown that he can perform to a good level for us. Yes, he's struggled massively this season. He's been nowhere near good enough and he's not been at his level. But I think it would be a big mistake to get rid of him. And I always look at teams that are interested in a player when there's potential for them to leave. And you look at the teams that are interested, and they're not shit teams. Those guys aren't all stupid. There's a reason why top teams are interested in Mason Mount, because he's a good player. And if you don't like him, that's fine. But don't try and reinvent the wheel and say that he's shit when he's not, because he's not. If you don't want him to be, if you don't want him at the club and you think it's best he moves on,
be honest, if you don't want him at the club.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
He's not good enough.
But where I'm out with it is like when people say that he's not good enough, which is just nonsense, because he clearly is. And you look at the teams that are interested, the managers of those teams shows that he clearly is a good footballer, and he is a good footballer. So yeah, I think it makes sense to keep him around.
Literally, Eden Hazard was the last player to have a better season for us than Mason Mount.
Yeah, and
not good enough. What about all the others then?
Yeah, and I look at him and I just think, do you know what? I think Poch could definitely get improvements out of him. You look at what I'm not saying that Mount and Dele Alli are kind of similar players. I'd say Ali was probably a little bit more attack-minded than Mount, but you can certainly see similarities between the two. And I actually think
I want to see them, but yeah.
No, but do you know what I mean? You can though. You like I always look at Mount and think, and you look at Dele Alli and you think Mount has got capabilities of doing of performing like Ali did under Poch.
Or like Ericsson, whatever you want to.
Yeah. There's definitely
I think he has more Ericsson than Dele Alli personally.
Yeah.
Can I just ask though?
Yeah.
Because Dele Alli, obviously, this is the big thing with me. Is Mount is like Dele Alli obviously played behind the striker, and
hence why I said more Ericsson than Dele Alli.
And we've got like Nkunku coming in. Felix might stay. Havertz hasn't been sold. Like, for me, the thing is like I want to keep Mount, but at the right wages, because I don't see where he starts. That's my problem.
Yeah, I would agree on that, and I think this is the first
I don't see
time
where Joao Felix starts.
But I think there's more. I think you can. I think for Mount, this is the first time in his career where he's not been an automatic starter in the team. And you look at it, and if Poch wants to go 4-2-3-1. Where does that leave Mount? That Mount's not going to play in a pivot. And all right, he could play right-hand side, not ideal, but he could play there. You're looking at him playing as a 10. Now, would you rather extend Mason Mount and have him and Nkunku rotating in that 10 role, or do you sign Felix again on another loan and have...
I would rather Nkunku and Mount, but
Yeah,
everyone will have a different thought.
I think I probably would rather Nkunku and Mount in that position as well, because I just think I don't know. I think Mount could. I'd honestly Mount's got a higher ceiling than Felix. So I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't necessarily believe that, but I think in terms of what can be achieved at Chelsea, I actually think Mount has got more potential to do good things at Chelsea than Felix does. And I just think he does. So yeah, whilst I would obviously rather have, I'd rather keep Mount. I could understand that, and Nkunku and Felix wouldn't be a disaster in the 10. But Price does make a good point, and it's like a point that I think a lot of people have thought about is like Mount stays great, but where's he going to play? All right, in a 4-3-3 can definitely play as an 8 for sure. He can rotate as one of those 8 options or be a starter. But then 4-2-3-1, like you're struggling to see where he fits in unless it's a 10, and he could rotate with Nkunku.
You play 4-3-3, right?
Yeah.
You have, say, Mount Enzo as the 8s.
And what I'd say Kante or Rice or whatever as a 6. If we were to,
Kante, we want to sign. It's been labelled we want to sign a partner for Enzo, which makes me think more of a pivot, obviously.
Yeah. Well, Poch's most common formation has been 4-2-3-1, hasn't it? So
because he had Eriksen and Dembele, didn't he?
You think about it though. If we did use a 4-3-3, obviously Mount could start, makes more sense. But then where does Nkunku start? Does he start up front and then we don't sign a striker because he's not a winger? So it's like all these like things you're thinking. Well, like they've got so much to sort out and plan because like. And Nkunku coming in has made things very difficult. And obviously, if they sign Felix or extend Felix loan, that's going to make it more difficult. So,
I mean, you look at Nkunku signing, and that almost shoehorns you into having to play a system with a second striker to get the best out of Nkunku.
I agree because that's what he is. I mean,
which is okay because Poch does that anyway. Whether he does it from the wide area with someone like Son or whether he does it from a bit more centrally with someone like Dele Alli, he's done that. So, like, it's not necessarily a thing that's going to stop him working or Pochettino being successful. But I mean, I am in full agreement. I completely agree. It can only be Mount or Felix. It's not. It won't be both, and it can't be both.
Because imagine if you had Mount. Imagine say Mount extends, right? So we have Mount and Nkunku. Say Felix extends as well. Felix, and then say we don't get rid of Havertz. You then got Havertz, Mount, Felix, and Nkunku.
It's impossible. Like that,
you can't have that.
Two of those will have to not be at the club.
Yeah,
2.
No, I agree. 2 of them will have to not be there. Yeah. And for me,
especially with 1 game a week, you can't even make the debate. Well, like rotation. No, like we've got 1 game a week.
I mean, the only way it could potentially work is if we don't sign another winger and we just use one of those guys to fill in there as and when potentially.
Yeah, I don't think that's ideal though. Like,
no, it's not. It's definitely not ideal. It's not ideal at all.
Yeah, I do see like obviously because like if it was like a 4-2-3-1, we kept Felix, had Nkunku and Mount. I could see Nkunku Mount rotating, and then maybe Felix takes one of the. Say Felix then started on the right, but like drifted in, like cool, but then that like limits Madueke, So it's like.
There's problems to each one, as you say, like with 1 game a week as well.
But Raphinha also hinders Madueke, and you don't seem to have a problem with that.
Well, no, it doesn't. No, but not as much though. Like
not as much.
More. No, because Raphinha, it would be an actual like-for-like player to Madueke.
Yeah, but they just be rotating.
If Raphinha would come in, Madueke would be second fiddle. Let's be honest.
No, I don't want
game a week, like you just touched on, it can only be 1. So if you're trying to put players out of position, then they're not always going to be out of position, right? So then Madueke will get a chance depending on opponents. Like we maybe want to be a bit more narrow. In some opponents, we want to be a bit more wide. But Raphinha and Madueke are the same style players. So if you have the same style player and one's better than the other, then the one's going to be picked over the other all the time because we don't have enough games to need to rest. So surely by that, if we're talking about we need to give Madueke enough chances, then surely the big no should be Raphinha, no?
No, not necessarily.
I think they can be molded.
Because you're gonna need like in games. Let's be real,
over younger than
over the course of the season,
Mount and Nkunku are all younger than Raphinha.
But over the course of the season,
I'm talking about like one of the wingers. If like Raphinha and Madueke, they're pure wingers, right? Yeah. But what's stopping either of them from learning more of like an inside forward winger? Like, why do they have to be? Just because what they are now, what's the point in getting Poch if players aren't going to be different?
No, that's okay. But I can't remember which one of you said it, but one of you said that it will then hinder Madueke.
Yeah,
No,
because
regardless
Felix
of whether
isn't a
you
winger.
can change them into something else,
Yeah,
that
but
fact
Felix,
still applies.
Felix is not a winger though. Why would we like if Felix
Exactly.
was? Yeah, but that's what.
Therefore, he's less likely to hinder Madueke as a winger.
No, because he'd start every game because it's Joao Felix. Like I don't think Raphinha starts every game.
No, Raphinha wouldn't start every game, and I think it's also
Of course
important.
he
Yes,
would. If
No,
you
he
signed Raphinha
wouldn't.
for 50, 60 million, of course he would start every game.
no, he wouldn't. Like he'd play a lot of minutes, but like I think also over a course of a season, yes, we're only playing once a week, but if he was to come in, like there's going to be certain rotation for certain games, injuries to take into account, and also like we're not going to be in winning positions in every game. Like there's going to be options. You need options on the bench, and you do need like people talk about strength and depth, but quality and depth is massively important. And you know, look when we used to have Robin, Joe Cole, Duff, and Wright Phillips as our 4 wingers when we were winning Premier Leagues back in the Jose days. That was class. You need 2 quality wingers in each position. I don't necessarily.
I agree. I
don't
disagree with this. The point that
it hinders
Felix
development.
hinders Madueke more than Raphinha does.
I know Joao Felix doesn't, but I get it in both ways. Like whilst Joao Felix is not a direct like competitor for Madueke's spot because they're not the same player. I get Pice's point that if you're signing Felix on loan for the reported 16 million that it might be, in the Czar was saying today, then you would think that if that gets signed off, then the expectation is that Felix is going to play most of those games, and you have to somehow find a space for him in the team. So, like, whilst it's not a direct threat, you could almost say that it could hinder him in somewhat because you'd expect Felix would have to play, which means there's one less space.
Yeah, no,
maybe.
I think Raphinha might be agent driven anyway, because I was told that Deco offered him to us. Which, whenever I see like agents offer players to clubs, I think, it's not really like a.
Which would be much better because, like I say, for PR reasons, like we've had so much bad PR. I don't think that is the kind of player we should go after. I mean, Aaron, let me get your thoughts in here. First of all, Mason Mount contract situation. Do you see him extending at this point? Do you agree that it's kind of we kind of have to make a decision between Mount or Felix? Or I also wouldn't be surprised if it's like we're trying to extend Mount's contract. If we can, we're not going to get Felix again. If we can't, we might get Felix again. That's how I think the situation might pan out personally.
In regards to Mount, whether he signs, whether he doesn't at this point, I don't give a shit. I'm just tired of it. It's so boring. It's the same shit over and over again. Really and truly, all I'm going to care about is when we get a decision, whether it's a yes or a no, and then if it's a no, where he goes next. But in terms of with Felix and this whole debate that you guys have been having, I kind of get it to a certain extent because, say for example, you have someone like, so you're going to have Nkunku, you might have Mount still, you'll have Havertz, even if you had Felix as well, whatever. Having Madueke on the right, means whether you sign Raphinha, whether you sign Felix, you're probably going to have competition on that side anyway. I think you get a little bit more dynamic and it's a bit different having someone like Felix come off there rather than Raphinha, because instead of having 2 left-footed right wingers who both like to cut inside, you've got that little bit of change between the two where one's going to cut inside, one's going to go on the outside, and it just gives you a little bit of difference in the squad, so kind of you can alter your squad to the sort of game that
it's
you're in.
It's only a problem when one of them's injured and you then don't have the left-footed cutting in winger available because of injury. That's when that can become an issue, what you're talking about.
Yeah, we'll just keep Ziyech around just in case. But no,
how about no?
Yeah, let me not get too ahead of myself. But yeah, it's difficult because obviously until we don't see how Poch wants to plan the squad out, we can only assume that he's going to go off of what he normally goes with. But managers will always have to adapt their tactics and stuff based on the squad that they have at hand. So nobody can really say for certain what Poch is going to play, and no one has any idea. So it's hard to speculate what formation to then figure out personnel in which position and all that shit. So it's all going to be interesting to see come the end of the season and when we get into pre-season, etc. But if it was me, I would probably look to extend Felix and not sign Raphinha. That's just me personally, because Felix is giving you that little bit of difference. He's not as clinical, I don't think, because when we saw Raphinha at Leeds, he knew how to put the ball in the back of the net, and he was.
But do you actually think that keeping Felix will stop us getting a winger though? Because I don't, especially for the right side, I don't like. Other than in that Fulham game when he kind of drifted over to the right hand side in this very first game for us, Joao Felix doesn't touch the right, and he never has. To be fair, actually, for Portugal in the World Cup, he did kind of play a little bit off the right, actually, to be fair. But usually it's like either centrally or left. So I'm not even really sure how realistically Felix has anything to do with the right hand side.
Even if that was the case, you could easily have Felix and Mudryk on the left, and then swing Sterling over on the other side and have Sterling
absolutely.
by the way. Okay, so you've got many options as it is, and I think the whole winger thing. I think when you're looking to sign a new keeper, a number 6, a number 9 as well, I think that comes so low on the priority list, and with the personnel that we've got right now, I don't think we really need it, if I'm being completely honest. So I don't think that should be a priority, nor do I think they will treat it as one, especially when we've already had the spend that we've had over this last season. We brought in about 47 players. So I think it's going to be more about getting rid of players now. But with the personnel that we've got, who we know are most likely going to stick around, I think it will be. I don't think winger is going to really be a priority.
Yeah, there you go. I do agree for the most part. Adrian, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it very much. He says if Mount and Chelsea can't come to an agreement, he will need to be sold. Don't think we are in a financial position to let him go for free. Yeah, no, I think we're first of all in agreement with that, and secondly, that's also widely reported as such. But let's take it to this Joao Felix conversation. Now, this is a report from Isaac Kinsella, not exactly the most reliable source. We'll just take it with a good pinch of salt and just discuss the potential of it, and then we'll just see what ends up happening with that anyway. But yeah, Nizar obviously reported Chelsea have had a few talks with Atletico Madrid to see what is possible for Joao Felix next season. Amid Mauricio Pochettino talks, he will have his say. Pochettino, that is, another loan or return to Spain are currently most likely. And everything we've talked about so far, I know Pies loves him, and I know a lot of other fans like him as well. I just don't see the point, because he's not an ideal left winger. So you wouldn't want him as your main starter there, because you wouldn't want a player like Joao Felix, who's a very good player, out of position as his way always plays. You wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want him on the left. You wouldn't want him on the right. You wouldn't want him up front. As a 10 behind a striker, you can debate it. But if we get Joao Felix on a loan, but we'd have Nkunku on a permanent transfer, wouldn't that kind of defeat the point? And well, we just signed Nkunku, so why would you play Aloni over him? Now, of course, Joao Felix could become a permanent transfer, but especially on a permanent transfer, having Joao Felix and Nkunku, and if you want to use both, always having to use one of which kind of out of position, to me, isn't really a smart position to be in for the club. To me, it's just like that's the kind of move we did in the old regime, where we had players in a team that didn't really fit in a team. Where you're like, in the past, that usually came about through managerial changes and every manager wanting different types of players. That's usually how we came to situations like that. Now it would be different, but the resulting situation would still be the same, where you're like, you either play one of the two or you play both, but one of them out of position. And I just don't really see the point in doing that. Like 16 million for a year's loan. That gets you 7 years of Madueke. Do you know what I mean? Double that gets you 7 years of Madueke. Like, it's just Madueke has arguably been, like, the last 2 games done more than Joao Felix has in all of his games, which is, says a certain amount. Some people might disagree with that. Like, Joao Felix has only scored more goals than Mount in the season once in his career, and that was at Benfica. Mason Mount did it in the Premier League, and everyone always hypes out, the Premier League's so difficult, Premier League proven this, Premier League proven that. When they do it in an off-league, no one gives a shit. Well, that literally applies to Joao Felix. Literally does. So it's, to me, like I say, if Mount doesn't extend, I'm okay with Felix staying. But if there is a way where we can extend Mount, I just think it just makes no sense to.
Isn't the biggest thing on this what Pochettino wants to do? Yeah. If Pochettino doesn't want him, it's a no starter. Forget it. What happens if Mount doesn't extend and Poch doesn't want Felix? Then what? Well, then we're fucked. We have to sign someone else.
Exactly that. So that's why I think yes, partly it's down to what Poch wants, but I think first and foremost it's down to whether we can extend the contract with Mount or not. Because I think we're all in agreement that Poch wants Mount. Yeah, for sure. But what I would say on Felix as well, I think 2 things is: one, it depends on the Mount situation. Secondly, it depends on does Pochettino actually want him, and then thirdly, it depends on who goes as well. To make space for him, like, it's got to make sense on a number of levels, and it's not a priority signing. Like, this is a luxury signing in terms of
we shouldn't be looking to do this at the expense of a goalkeeper, a striker, and a holding midfield player. If all those positions are addressed and there's scope to bring Felix in as well, great, let's do it. But this shouldn't be a priority. Shouldn't be a priority. It's a luxury signing. And whilst he's good and there's ability there, there's far more important positions on the pitch that need addressing. And I just look at it and think, yes, there is quality there, but we've got a squad with a lot of players like him, and there's no point just bringing him in again for a season if we've got Nkunku here, if we've still got Havertz here, if Mount extends. We're where does Felix actually fit in amongst all that? He doesn't. You simply can't have Mount, Felix, Havertz, and Nkunku all in the same thing. It just doesn't work. So I think I do like Felix, and I would like him to stay, but the circumstances have got to be right. It shouldn't just be, let's keep him no matter what. You know, it's got to be right. So there's a lot of things that need to go right for this deal to kind of come into place. So yes, I know some people are definitely sold on it. I'm less sold on it, but in the right circumstances, I don't have an issue with it. But it does depend on a number of things.
Yeah, no, there you go. I mean, Pies, I know you want to keep Felix, but in terms of if I ask you how you'd actually want to make that happen. So obviously we know we're getting Nkunku. How do you see them both fit in? Like, would you then rotate them two? Would you play both of them? Would one of them always be out of position? Like, how would you go about it? Because like, if you want him, I feel like you must surely have some sort of logical explanation for how that would work, rather than it's just like, yeah, I want him.
Yeah, I've always said that I think what we should do is we should get like a number 9, but not like a starting number 9. I think we should play Felix behind Nkunku, or Nkunku behind Felix even, and then have that option off the bench of bringing a natural number 9 on. So I don't know whether that'll be Bro though, because I think, you know, after his ACL, I'm not sure. I'd probably prefer him to go on loan, but that's what I would do. And then you could have Felix and Nkunku and Mount in, because Mount
doesn't want that, or that hasn't in the past at least used that kind of Nkunku
style.
Yeah,
but that's what I would do. I don't know what Poch will do.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it does. Charlie is right.
Do you really feel like that would really work though, or is that just you fitting in both players?
I think it could work. I could think it could be extremely fluid. I mean, why not? Especially with a lot of training on the training pitch, and how Poch has, you know, brought some good attacking teams out in the past. So I think it could work. But again, I think it would, like, there might be like moments in the game where we're like, okay, you know, we need a natural number 9. So I would still have one in the squad, whoever that would be, but I would not have him like as a starter almost. I'd have him as an option and have the main thing be try and, you know, use Felix or Mount, whoever plays in the number 10, and Nkunku up front, because Nkunku is extremely clinical. I don't know if that would work. That would just be my idea to fit everyone in, because I do want Felix to stay. But I agree, it does depend on situations and what Pochettino wants. And this is why I said, I don't know who said it at the start, but they said they were worried about I think it might have been you, Charlie, how you said you were a bit worried about we might be getting left behind. I think there's already a hell of a lot going on behind the scenes, personally. Like, you know, Fab said they talked to Pochettino about transfers and stuff. You guys know how long these talks have been going on. They've probably already sorted the fucking, you know, the lineup out for next season. So I hope so. Anyway, I do think they're more well prepared in a 4-4-3 probably. Now that we've got more, you know, now we've got directors in charge, like actual football people. I'd like to hope, you know, they're more planned anyway. I don't think we'll be left behind in terms of, you know, how we're discussing now. They've probably already discussed this, and we'll find out in a couple of weeks or something. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'll stick with you actually, Pies, for a second, because I want to take it to what Pochettino wants, and what we've had reported is, as it says here, wants to ideally add players with Premier League pedigree to Chelsea's squad, and has identified a goalkeeper, midfielder, and striker's positions to strengthen. Whether that's Poch, but also the club, in terms of how you said you would obviously have a different type of striker than using Nkunku there. Realistically, it seems like the club and Poch want like a real striker that's also like going to start regularly, right? They don't want a backup striker. At least that's what it seems like. And if that's the case, how can you fit? How can you, like, I know that's not how you would want it, but I'm asking you, if next season the situation is we have signed a big striker, and we theoretically, and we have Nkunku. And then it's about how would you add Felix into that? And you can't take the option of playing Nkunku up front, Felix Manning, because you have signed another striker who will play.
You play one of them out wide and you don't sign a winger. Simple as that. But I don't think that's.
But would you then play that one out wide over Madueke or over Mudryk?
I'd play one of them on the right and switch with Madueke, because again, I don't think Madueke is going to be able to play every single game. To be honest,
and that's fair.
History doesn't do that.
So, I also don't think it's ideal if we go into the season and Madueke is our only right winger. I agree with that.
But it swings and roundabouts. I don't.
But to me, Sterling will be used in the right a lot personally. So I think Sterling will be our starting right winger personally. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I don't know if Sterling's really a Poch player, to be honest with you. It's going to be interesting.
I mean, he might not be, but I still don't see us being able to sell him, even if we wanted to. No one's going to be stupid
not on 300k. Yeah,
exactly. And he's not going to accept the pay cut. So he's here. So
we'll see how ruthless they are, because there's been a lot of reports how they'll
get.
It
doesn't matter about ruthless if the player has a contract. If the player wants to stay, the player wants to stay. End of discussion. Do you know what I mean? You can send him to the reserves if you want to, but nothing else you can do. Like, we gave him that contract. Now we have to see it out. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing we can do about that.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because I mean, aren't Barca literally?
You don't agree with what?
Like you're saying, like you have to see out the contract. I mean, no, you can't.
No. I'm saying now, if we wanted Sterling to leave after the season Sterling's had, no one's going to give Sterling the same wages we gave him.
No.
And if Sterling wants to keep the same wages, there's nothing we can do about it. That's what I'm saying. That's what we can't do.
On wages, I would agree.
And I'm not saying that next year we can't sell him either, but now, very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. I also don't, do we really believe that they want to? I don't know.
Mate, he was like the marquee signing, supposedly, Sterling.
Exactly. First of all, that. Secondly, we have so many other wingers. Do you really think they want to sell Sterling as well? I don't know.
I think after a year, like if he's still, I think after next season, if he's still shit, then we should look to get rid of him. I still think it's a bit harsh after a year to be looking to get rid of players. I mean, the ones in the summer, look at it and you think, Sterling and Cucurella, they do probably deserve one more season. I think it's quite harsh to judge someone after 1 year, but if a respectable offer was to come in for either of them, I maybe feel the club might look to accept it potentially. But I still think that's a big if.
No, if we got a big offer, like around the same money we paid for him, of course we would consider it. Absolutely. I think we'd all agree that they're probably going to do that, but who would, right? Like from top leagues, obviously maybe Sterling would be willing to move away, but the whole reason why I left Manchester was to come back to London. I don't think he's going to want to leave London again. So, it's just one of those. Isaac with the super chat, appreciate it very much. He says, King Eden back as our winger signing, please. I'm not sure. That's what he said. He's going to stay in Madrid, and the rumors are that he might retire after. So I'm not sure if you're going to see that one anymore. But yeah, Aaron, I'll come back to you. Apparently, he wants a goalkeeper, a midfielder, and a striker. That's the addition to strengthen. But also he wants to add players with Premier League pedigree. Excuse me. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean he wants all 3 new signings to be Premier League proven or have Premier League pedigree. But I mean, I'll get to your thoughts with Lloris on that in a bit, Pies. But on a few positions, this concerns me a little bit. Striker, other than Harry Kane, who's a valid option. No one. Obviously, if you have one, please tell me. At goalkeeper, I'm not a fan of Raya. I'm not that big of a fan of Robert Sanchez either. So then what? Premier League proven goalkeeper, where you're going to pluck that one from? Fucking Pickford if they get relegated? I bloody hope not. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of the fact that Everton beat Brighton yesterday and are less likely to get relegated now. But, I mean, Tony, to be fair, sure, Tony's a fair point. But again, it's just all about waiting. What about his ban? Like, it's all we can't even talk about Ivan Toney really until we know how long his ban's going to be. But how do you see that one, Aaron? In terms of apparently these 3 players, but Premier League pedigree, does that fill you with confidence then? And like, oh, good, that's what he wants. But is it, or are you like, well, but which good players from the Premier League could we sign then?
It concerns me to a certain degree, because when you're looking in around the Premier League and sort of players who would be available from clubs you feel like you could actually negotiate with, there isn't all that much. You'd have to look out into Europe for that. And our last window of going mainly Premier League heavy, we sort of saw how it went. So it does fill me with a little bit of concern. But when you even run through the options like at striker, really it's only Ivan Toney who's viable because the options that are out there. Clubs
And he
just
might not be viable either.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. In his bet scandal, he's still got to face his ban for that. So we have to still wait and see what happens there. Then all the other sort of players that are out there, their clubs won't sell them. So it's difficult to even look past that, and that's one of the most important positions that we need to address. So it's a bit concerning, but hopefully they take it into account, but don't necessarily base it all on that, because I don't think the Premier League experience is the be all and end all, if we're being honest. Because the players that we bought in the summer window, a lot of them had Premier League experience, and look where it got us. So I wait to see kind of what direction we go in, but yeah, the options aren't the greatest, so I wouldn't be too fond of it. But hey ho, what do I know?
There you go. I mean, someone said Meslier, like that is exactly what I'm worried about.
Fuck no, honestly, if we
that's
get
exactly
him,
exactly your reaction.
Yeah.
That's exactly why
He's
I'm a
awful.
little bit concerned about like Premier League pedigree.
Please, he's so bad. Please never mention him again. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I really don't like that guy. I think he's awful, man. I don't know why he's so hyped up. He's shit. He's so bad. I'm literally convinced it's just because he's French and young. He's awful. Have you watched Leeds this season, bro? Like, honestly, so bad.
Honestly, I haven't, but when I have, Meslier hasn't looked great. That's
so many mistakes. He's crazy. He's so bad.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Well, the goalkeeper market's pretty dead, to be fair.
Exactly.
Like, if we're being honest with ourselves, now
you're going to set Laurenz off on his Kepa run.
but just in general, the goalkeeper market is not strong. Like you're, I think it's a bit like the centre forward market. If you're looking, like, if you're trying to shop like we are for a world class 9 or a world class goalkeeper, like the market's pretty dead. You're looking at two or three names.
The striker market is dead.
Mate, it's literally Osimhen. It's Osimhen, Toney, Kolo Muani, Kane.
Yeah,
and that's about it.
And Kane is kind of ruled out for us.
Kane's not really a goer for us.
Well, Ramos and Rui Costa might kill us if we go back there. So
yeah, I mean, I do like Gonzalo Ramos, but I think we probably have to lay off that one for a little bit.
Wait,
but
Costa plays for Porto, doesn't he?
No, Rui Costa.
I'm sorry.
I thought you went back.
Costa, the goalie.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't disagree. But Peter, appreciate the super chat, but I think you lost the plot a little bit here. Now, yes, I would also prefer Mount to stay over Felix, but you cannot
cover over Lamps. Jesus,
like cover over Lamps is a very different kettle of fish to Felix over Mount. Like, calm your horses.
That's outrageous.
I've taken it a bit far.
Not if I have anything to say about it. It's not.
Maybe
exactly. It's probably better if I doesn't reply.
Maybe he meant as a manager cover over Lamps.
Hey, that's actually true.
But then you might flip it. Then you might flip the whole thing. I mean, Frank, to be honest, Frank as a manager is kind of like Joao Felix, the footballer, really. It all looks good, but then you see it happen and it's all dreadful. Joking. Dan Waters with another super chat, and Pice, I actually want you to respond to this when he says Manuel Ugarte would be the perfect partner would be a perfect partner for Enzo, to Enzo, in my opinion. You were posting about this on London's First. Pice's website is down in the description, of course, that we did scout a fair few midfielders, including Romeo Lavia, but also including Manuel Ugarte. So what exactly is the situation in terms of defensive midfielders that we could bring in? Like, first of all, Declan Rice situation, like, are we expecting him to go to Arsenal at this point? Are we not? Now that they're potentially signing Subimendi, are they getting both? Like, because for me, Rice is still the first choice, and then there's a few who I'm like, I don't mind between any of you. If we're not getting Rice, if we can't get Rice or whatever, then there's a few players that I'm happy with. Ugarte is one of them, Lavia is one of them, Caicedo is one of them. What's your thoughts, number one, and what's your level of information in terms of the midfield?
Yeah, just really like been scouting so many midfielders. Ugarte is definitely one. I think he's a really good player for me personally. I think he's really good. Really good on the ball.
How old is he?
Huh?
How old is Ugarte?
I think he's 21. I think so.
Okay,
he's young.
Around 22 in April.
Yeah, 22. Yeah, 21, something like that. Yeah, he's got that, South American vibe to him. He's Uruguayan, he'd love to tackle. I just think he's a really good player, to be honest. I think he'll definitely get a big move soon. And he's another one from Portugal. I mean, Portugal's hit rate over here is like 90%, honestly. Like, it's really good. So there's that to it as well, if you like the semantics and all that. But yeah, I mean, as you said, Caicedo, I think he'd be brilliant. He'd actually be, him and Rice are my number ones. But I think Rice goes to Arsenal personally. Yeah, I think he does go to Arsenal. Again, I don't even think Rice would consider us if Mount wasn't staying. So I think there's that to it as well. And also, I just
another reason to make Mount sign that contract.
I just think the ship. I'm not even going to say. I was going to say like the ship has sailed, but I just think Rice to Chelsea is like one of those ones that seems obvious, but will just never happen. Like, I don't know. It just,
or maybe he like retires, or not retires at Chelsea, but comes to us at like 29 or something.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's like it just seems perfect. Like he's a DM. You know, he's English. You know, he's
a leader,
proven. Like he's a
exactly
leader. Like it just seems perfect, but we just don't like. We just can't seem to get him. So yeah. Others that we scouted, Thuram from Nice, I think it is. He's a young player as well.
Yep.
He's a really good. He's the son of. I think he's the son of.
Lilian Thuram, and his
and also you've
with
got
Marcus
Thuram as well. So I didn't even really know that, but yeah.
What a family of ballers that is, by the way.
Yeah, I found that out. Sandro Tonali, it was mentioned to me that maybe a Pulisic swap plus money could come up.
To AC Milan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, that's interesting because Tonali's one of those who, in the Serie A, whenever I watch Milan, he looks absolutely brilliant. But I can never decide whether this is just Serie A tax, because he looks phenomenal there when I watch him. But I'm like, but would you look as phenomenal for us? I mean, I might be bored. I can't even lie with Tonali. I quite like him. He's captain of AC Milan, isn't he? Like, is he really going to leave? I mean, I know Donnarumma did, but
yeah, I think a few Milan people, like fans, quote me like, "Shut up, he's never leaving" type thing. So I was like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
I'm just saying what I got told, but yeah, I think it was the other. Palinha from Fulham. There's some interest in him as well, but I think he's going to be like 50 million plus. So
I think he'd be a good signing.
Yeah, I just don't know what.
I think
a few people have told me he's not very good on the ball, but I don't know. I mean, I've watched a bit of Fulham, but he's very good, like in the tackle. He kind of reminds me of Matic a little bit.
Poch used Eric Dyer, so
yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
there you go. Make anyone work then.
Yeah, there's a lot of midfielders there, and like basically the scouts have just been told like ramp up reports, and then they're sending them to Winstanley and obviously Stewart. But I think Lavia actually. If I had to make a quick prediction, I think Lavia will be the one we sign, just because I think he's had the most traction over the last few months, and I think probably Joe Shields might come into the play a little bit more. But again, I mean, the scouts aren't reporting to Winstanley and Stewart, so Shields maybe won't get that much for say. I'm not sure.
It would still like I like Lavia a lot as a player. He looks amazing. He's only 19. Like he will only get better and better and better. But that's my concern though, where I'm like, is our fan base ready for a 19, 20-year-old again? Next to Enzo, who's also only 22. I just feel like, you know how Pies, you were like saying, no, top four has to be the expectation. The more young, inexperienced players you add to that, the less likely that is, because the younger, the less experienced, the more inconsistent you are. And therefore, we will have some great games where they're phenomenal, but they will have some where they're not. And that will cost us points that are crucial in the top four race, where I'm like,
yeah. I think if we could get Southampton get relegated, like
Jorginho, for example,
Lavia must be cheap, surely. Lavia
imagine we could cop like Lavia for 30 mil and then get someone else and have Lavia learn. That would be like ideal.
I think that's the most
important. That's good enough. That's the important to learn from. It wouldn't be ridiculously expensive.
On Lavia,
maybe like Palinha or someone.
I'm happy to sign Lavia, but it's got to be. He can't be the main midfield signing. There's got to be someone more experienced along with him.
Yeah,
I don't think we can sign Lavia and that be our main signing in midfield. I think there has to be another one to go with it, because Lavia, as good a player he is, 19, very little experience, has got a lot of growing to do into that role. You need someone with experience in there as well. If you could get Lavia and Rice, or Lavia and someone else, let's do it. But Lavia can't be the main midfield signing.
Yeah, I agree. But I tell you now, I reckon he will be. I reckon he will be.
I wouldn't be too surprised either. Now, obviously, we're still keeping Kante in terms of a bit more experience in that area of the field. But unless Poch teaches Kante some discipline and how to stay in his role, especially because I also feel like, you know, when Sarri did that, playing him as an 8 and stuff, Kante was a lot younger than he is now, right? So it made a lot more sense. I feel like as Kante's getting older, with the injuries, troubles he's already had, I think it would make a lot of sense to try and nowadays play him a little bit deeper and see if he can make that work. But I don't know if that's what Poch
I
is
tell you
gonna
what, someone DM'd me the other day, and I was thinking, it's very unlikely. But what happens with all these midfielders Real Madrid bringing in? What happens if they sell Tchouaméni? That would be quite something, wouldn't
They're
it?
not going to sell Tchouaméni after signing him for 100 million euros after
Maybe,
1 year.
but the guy was messaging me, and he was like,
2
he
or
had
3
like
years, maybe, but not now.
He had a look at like Real Madrid's transfers, and every summer they sell like a big player, like someone.
They do, yeah.
Who did they sell last year?
Casemiro.
They sold Casemiro, and they sold who was it? They sold someone else for a bit, but
but Casemiro is obviously in his mid-30s.
Yeah, he's 31, but you look at it, they still got Modric and Kroos are probably going to extend there well into their 30s. But
Camavinga, he's playing left back at the moment, but he's a number 6.
I think the most likely to leave off the lot is probably Camavinga. I don't know if.
But he's going to play left back, so that'll be
presumably not when Mendy is not injured, right?
Mendy's going to leave. Mendy's leaving in the summer.
Left back, don't they? So.
Mendy's going to leave in the summer. Real Madrid.
Yeah, what? Yeah, they're selling him.
Yeah, they're going to sell him.
Interesting. All right. Who knew that? All right.
I don't know. He was just saying like with all Real Madrid signings, like he doesn't really know where Tchouaméni fits. So I don't know. Maybe that's one.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Tchouaméni the only really defensive one of the lot they have left.
Yeah, no, he is. Well, Camavinga's a 6 as well, but Tchouaméni is probably
but not a single 6 either, right?
No, Tchouaméni's the most natural in that position.
Tchouaméni doesn't even start now, so like I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it's not wrong. He didn't start against us, did he? Was he not injured? No.
No, he's always on the bench. They always play the same midfield because they got Valverde as well, haven't they? So
yeah, but yeah,
hey, if in a year or two Tchouaméni becomes available, we might knock the door. Do you know what I mean?
But I'm still fuming that we chose Saul instead of Tchouaméni. It's absolutely that's criminal. That deserves
praise the Lord.
That deserves jail time. Though that sort of behaviour, that is outrageous.
And German jail is arguably a bit too nice for that.
Speaking from experience,
no, thankfully not. Thankfully not. But I've watched a few documentaries.
Yeah, fair.
There you go, Andrew Dang, Vietnamese, American born in Arizona. Thank you for clarifying where you're from, mate. Havertz is good from the bench than a starter.
I
agree with that. He's better from the bench.
Yeah.
Fucking Sterling's unreal from the bench and shit when he starts.
Yeah, I think same with Havertz. There's quite a few though.
They all seem to be good from the bench.
Is it maybe that just every player is a bit better from the bench when they come on, when they're fresh and the opponent is a bit tired?
Well, in theory,
that applies to almost every footballer ever.
But in theory, you should look decent from the bench because you're coming into a game against tiring defenders.
Exactly. Maybe that just applies to every footballer ever. You know? That they're actually even better from the bench. Imagine you would just bring Messi, 35-year-old Messi. You'd only bring him on at 60 minutes every game. Do you know what I mean? Arguably that would be more useful than starting him nowadays with his age. But yeah, I don't know. Havertz is another one. A lot of people in the chat were mentioning Havertz when we were having our whole discussion about Felix, Mount, Raphinha, Madueke, whatever else, and Kunku. People bringing Havertz into that. The reason why I didn't bring Havertz up in that comparison, like with Felix, is Havertz we already have. So Havertz is a situation where it's to choose to sell, but also wait for what offers you get. For Felix, it's a decision that lies with us purely. Well, not purely, I guess Atletico Madrid have a part to say in it as well as Joao Felix himself, of course, too. But in terms of we still need to have the impetus to make it happen. Well, with Havertz, he's already here. So it's a little bit of a different conversation to have. And I guess the problem is also you can't make Felix wait until August until we finalize that decision. So you probably need to make that decision with Felix before you know who we managed to get rid of. So, yeah, I don't know about that one. But Aaron, in terms of midfielders, do you have a clear preference who you'd like for us to sign in midfield?
I wouldn't say I have a clear preference because we've been linked to so many different names, so it's kind of hard to sort of...
That's true.
Yeah, to try and pick apart one from each other is quite difficult. But obviously you've got the standard names of Rice, Lavia, Kone, Agate, that sort of thing. So there's obvious names out there, and I think a lot of the time it's one of them where it sounds like it's a lot of Football Manager, career mode type names sort of thing. But the one that the few that I've been most impressed with is probably Lavia and Ugarte. Ugarte, obviously, I haven't watched as much because I don't watch Portuguese football, but sometimes I remember the Arsenal game specifically when he got sent off, but he was very, very good, like very, very good. And Lavia, obviously, when we see in the Premier League, although Southampton are struggling, he's playing in a really shit team, but he seems to always look really good as well. So it's one of them where it's like you could either go with the more.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Not only is Lavia 19, but I didn't realize he only turned 19 this year.
Yeah,
he's not even like nearly 20. He just turned to 19 in January. He's born in 2004, man.
I think that's why Pep's sniffing back around that buyback clause, because they want to try to probably move on Calvin Phillips and Lavia in his position that he's in right now.
Should we consider Calvin Phillips?
No, don't play games. Don't play games like that.
No.
But the Yorkshire Perlo, let's get him in.
I mean, I know he wasn't good enough for City, but we are in a different situation.
But he's barely played football for a year, basically.
Yeah, no, that's.
I didn't rate him that much when he played for England regularly, but
that's another point on the Lavia thing, is that, like, obviously, like, if we're going to sign him, it has to be this summer, because you can almost guarantee that with Man City's buyback clause coming in the following summer, they'll probably sign him. They'd look to try and sign him with trying to rebuild their midfield. It might all be down
to Lavia. Maybe Lavia would rather go to City, do you know what I mean? And then just wait another year. But Southampton getting relegated obviously changes things drastically.
He's not going to play Championship.
No, exactly. So therefore, Lavia is most certainly... But yeah, I mean, if City are actually looking to move Calvin Phillips on, I think it's something to consider it is. I'm not saying I'd definitely be all about it, and it's certainly a bit of an issue that he hasn't played for a long time, but he's not a bad player. Interesting. Ndidi, absolutely no chance. Fuck everyone that plays at Leicester, in my opinion.
Just on that though, would you actually take Ndidi if Leicester go down? Would you take him for like 20 minutes?
I hate all of them. I hate all of them.
He's not
in the FA Cup final. I hate a lot of them.
Let's throw another quick name out there. If Leicester get relegated, I know it's another position where we don't really need, so we've got loads.
You've got James Maddison.
Madison.
Yeah. I mean, if we were desperate if we needed to play in that position, I'd say, yeah, absolutely.
If Mount leaves, I'd get Maddison.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Regardless of Felix staying.
Well, no, if Felix stays, then no. But
okay, yeah, okay. So that's a good point, actually. If Felix doesn't stay and Mount doesn't and is sold, then I think Maddison is someone to consider. No, I agree.
Yeah.
But will he not have better currently positioned clubs?
Well, they have Newcastle tried to get him. I mean, Newcastle tried to get him in January, had 2 bids rejected. So I think
exactly, and now they're potentially getting relegated, so that makes it much easier to get him. So
yeah, he'd cost 40 million, 50 million tops.
It's going to be his pick, right? So
I
mean, James Ward-Prowse, anyone? For me, it's a big no. But
absolutely not, mate. I look at Ward-Prowse and I think there's a reason why he spent his whole career at Southampton.
He can literally only take free kicks and corners. That's all he's good at.
To be fair, we need someone who can take a fucking corner. So
yeah,
maybe Mudryks have not been that bad.
True.
I will say that since Mudryk has taken them, they're not bad.
Yeah, but he's barely ever on the pitch to take them.
Well, hopefully he will be a bit more next season. You know?
Fucking better be next season.
I also can't believe why can't Enzo take a corner? How is that possible? You have like fucking 11 out of 13 completed long balls every fucking game, but you can't take a corner. How is that possible?
I think not being able to take a corner is like the most mysterious thing in football. Like,
maybe we should put Kepa on corners or something. I mean, it's a bit dodgy for counter attacks, but he'd probably be able to play a good corner, I reckon. But who knows? Who did I want to ask about next? I guess Charlie, I'll stick with you in terms of this whole Premier League pedigree thing that Pochettino wants that, especially like in midfield, we're all in agreement. Other than Ugarte, most of the ones that we're interested in are from the Prem anyway. Rice, Caicedo, Lavia, they're all Prem players. So that's no problem if you want a Prem player in that position. But especially a goalkeeper, that seriously concerns me.
Yeah, that's difficult. There's not many obviously, like if you're looking at goalkeepers you're looking at Alisson and Ederson, they're not going anywhere. The other ones, I can't see it. I don't think, other than Alisson and Ederson, I actually don't think any other goalkeeper is really realistically an upgrade on what we've got. They just...
thank you. Completely agree.
They're not. So like, yes, I understand that, Prem experience can be useful and important. It's not the be all and end all. It really isn't. You can get players, Sterling, an example this season, so much Premier League experience, multiple league winner, scored over 100 goals or whatever it is. Like, he struggled. So, and you look at Enzo, no Prem experience, he's come in and he's done pretty well. So, yes, the Prem experience can be useful, but at the same time, it's not like, it shouldn't be a defining factor. Like, it really shouldn't be. So, like, yeah, whilst goal, I mean, someone's saying Emi Martinez in the chat. Maybe.
I'm just not sure if he's good enough with his ball. Then again, I don't know how much Poch will try to build from the back. But
well, this is it. I mean, he's not awful. But again, I look at Martinez and I think, is that the massive upgrade we need in goal?
He's just right.
And I'd have to say no, it's not.
The shithouse is quite good though.
Yeah, but
I like that. They're bringing all sorts of new rules in. What they've got rid of ends anyway, so you can't do.
They've got rid of the shithouse rules now. The shithouse rules are gone.
Rate him because he's a shithouse, not because he's like amazing goalie.
I mean, he's still good. He made probably the best save in history of football in the World Cup.
Yeah, he's good, but he's not like it's not like someone like.
No,
he wouldn't be up there, would he? Really, with our targets?
No, exactly.
No,
but I mean, for me, neither would Raya. So, and he apparently is for the club. So, what do I know? I mean, we discussed the goalkeeper situation kind of aplenty. I would like Mignon. It seems like we're interested in Andre Onana. Let's see what happens. But yeah, the only one I'd really be really happy with is Mignon. Obviously, there's other ones, but ones that I see as potentially possible. And Ter Stegen, but the fact that there's been no rumors of him leaving, and we're getting this close to the window with Barca needing money. I just don't think Ter Stegen will leave. So therefore, to me, Mignon is the only really option that I'm really happy with. Onana is another one. Yeah, Dan Waters. Yeah, we were heavily linked. Define heavily linked, but yeah, a couple of more outlandish rumors. Pice, I did message you about this, but I'm not actually sure if you saw it or replied to me. If maybe I just missed your reply. But according to Pedro Almeida, and I have no idea how good he is, but there's been he's not the only one that's came up with this link. But he said that apparently first talks between Chelsea and Bayern for Sadio Mane happened last week in Munich. The English club are currently the favourite to sign a Senegalese player. Now, after the whole bust-up with Sane, it seems like maybe Mane will leave. I don't know. But first of all, have any reports that have linked us to Mane been any reliable? And then also add on to that whether you'd be in favour of that or not.
For me, no. I don't really see the point. I think he's quite washed now. I don't
say he's washed for one bad season at Bayern personally, but you need more than one bad season to be washed in my mind.
I don't know. I wouldn't take him personally. The only report that I saw which was reliable was from Christian Falk. He said that he said it is said that Chelsea are interested in him in Munich. So I don't know whether that meant he heard something in Munich or there was talk. I don't know. But this source on your screen is not very good. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's one that could, it might be like one of those surprise transfers where you're like, okay, didn't see that happening, but it happened sort of thing. But it
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't really make sense because I think Mane, right? You've got Mudryk on the left. Mane, just because of who he is, would want to start. So I don't think.
And you got Sterling.
Yeah, and Sterling. I don't think it would happen. But Bayern are trying to sell him, so I'll be interested to see where he goes.
Yeah,
it's got Juventus written all over it.
Yeah, someone like that because he won't be that expensive because he's old. So maybe PSG. Don't know.
Maybe
he'll get a big club because it's Mane, but I don't think it'll be us. He might go back to Liverpool. Who knows? Fuck knows.
Yeah, I don't fully disagree. It's a difficult one. I unless it's less than 30 mil, I would not entertain this.
He's lost his pace, man. Did you see him when he came over against City? He looked fucking well slow. He used to be one of the fastest wingers in the world, but I guess that comes of age. What is he? 31, I think now. 30, something like that.
31 or something. Yeah.
He's got to be getting on.
He's 31, but just turned 31 in April as well. I think that's more to do with not having played a lot and having been injured a bit, rather than that he's permanently not as quick anymore. But I mean, I despise him ever since he played for Salzburg. When he played against my local team, he was he was just the worst, the worst character of a player possible. Diving at every moment possible, but then kicking and scratching and not actual biting, but essentially other players, but then flipping around like a little bitch again. I despise the man. So it's a no from me. But even aside from my personal preferences with him, why? Like, our squad, the last thing we need is another left winger, please. So, like, right, Charlie? I mean, are you in agreement?
Yeah, look, he's obviously a top player, and yes, would he make an improvement? You'd think so, but it just doesn't really make any football. It doesn't make any logical sense for me. Like, where does he fit in at Chelsea? Where do we need him? We don't. Yes, if Sterling left, then maybe that's the only reason you could see it happening. But I just don't understand how. For me, it doesn't make sense. Only reason it makes sense if Sterling leaves. I just don't think we need another player like that.
Super cheap.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any footballing sense. So yeah, for me, it's a no for me.
Cover for Mane.
No.
Of course, I'm not asking.
No, I wouldn't, because it's different positions. If it was like Mane for Ziyech or Mane for Pulisic or something, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but we actually have to
get Mane for Pulisic, really, Charlie? I wouldn't even do that, bro.
You wouldn't do that?
Nah, Pulisic. Honestly, I would keep him as backup next season, but
mate, he's not going to be here next season.
No, but swapping him. Nah, I think Pulisic is better than Mane, definitely. Not the old Mane, but the Mane right now.
Yeah,
I don't know about saying Pulisic is better than Mane, but I might because I dislike Mane. I would probably agree.
I just don't think it.
I saw a comment the other day. Mane can't even bloody dribble anymore, man. Bayern fans don't even like him.
Yeah, it doesn't make the Mane to Chelsea doesn't make sense to me. It's a no for me. Not because he's a shit player, but it just doesn't make. It just doesn't really make sense
with the rats up north. So no thanks.
It just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
One last thing I'm going to bring up, and this is from Felix. So again, he's certainly proving himself more and more in terms of being a kind of a source in the know person. But I still take it with a big pinch of salt, because nothing against him, but it's still different to a lot of others. But he has pulled up with Lautaro Martinez as like one of the striker options. Pice, thoughts? Regardless of whether you think it's true now, let's just say, would we be interested in Lautaro Martinez? Would you be interested in Lautaro Martinez?
Biggest no I could ever give. I don't rate him at all, bro. Honestly, he misses so many chances. I don't
fit him perfectly. Then
I don't think he's I think our fan base would hate him, bro. Honestly, I don't know. I don't rate him that highly personally. No, I don't.
I mean, he has certain things about him which I do like, and I think that in a good team he could be really good. To me, he's an Aguero type player, but obviously
Aguero with no connection, basically.
Sorry?
No, I think Lautaro is someone that thrives with in a two-striker formation, like you see with him and Lukaku. So I put leading the line prop on his own. I don't think
Yeah, no,
he's not clinical enough for me personally to want him, and I think he'd be quite expensive as well. So,
and also I don't want to give Inter a single more penny. So so no.
And Lukaku would probably try and come back and act like he loves us again if Lautaro joined. So,
Lukaku can fuck right off. To be fair, if we signed Martinez, they might have the money to sign Lukaku. Big brain.
No, Lukaku would be like, oh no.
300 IQ moves now.
Yeah,
Lukaku would be like, fuck, now I need to go back to Chelsea.
This was the plan the whole time. I said I wanted Lautaro at Chelsea, not in there. Don't worry, I got it. I just misspelling the words, I missaid it.
Yeah, no, we are not signing Cavani, Varna, but also because of the banner, I get it. But yeah, Aaron, Charlie, just quickly, Martinez, yes, no, Charlie?
Probably not, no. It's not the worst idea in the world, but it's not. I don't really think it. I don't think it ticks boxes for me.
Yeah, I'd rather Vlahovic than him, and Vlahovic will be a lot cheaper as well. So, although Juve, after their 15 points were obviously brought back to them, even though they have money issues, they obviously have Champions League. If their 50 points don't get deducted again, so might not be quite as cheap as we initially thought. The whole Roque Santos or whatever his name is.
No, it's Vitor Roque. Yeah, that's gone pretty quiet.
Yeah, it has gone quiet. But again, I'm not even.
He can't join until he's 18 anyway, and he's like 16. So it's another one of them.
Yeah, no, exactly that. But Aaron, quickly, Lautaro Martinez, yes, no?
It's not the worst player in the world, but it doesn't really move me like that, so I'd say no.
Fair enough. But yeah, is there anything else I wanted to bring up that we've been linked to Neymar? Obviously, we're not getting Neymar. We're not in the Champions League. Why would Neymar ever entertain coming in?
I'm not going to pay him 600k.
Yeah, and that. Do you know what I mean? Hey, if PSG want to loan him and they pay 3/4 of his wages, it's a different story. But I doubt that will happen. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, who would be I guess we can finish on that one just quickly. Might probably be Osimhen.
Tony.
But it might be Tony if we know how long he's banned for.
I'm Tony all day long. Yes, the ban's a different thing, but yeah, Tony for me.
Okay, Pies? Who would be your top pick number 9?
I just want to say, Charlie, Roque is actually 18 right now.
Is he 18? Who was that other one that was like? Maybe I'm
Andrew.
thinking of someone else.
What was he called? The dude that signed for Madrid in the end?
What, Endrick?
Hendrick.
Yeah. In terms of strikers, Tony would be my number 1. Then Osimhen, then Vlahovic for me.
So Vlahovic ahead of Colomani for you?
Oh yeah, 100%. Vlahovic is a proper number 9, bro.
He's been shit for Juve this season. Well, I'm not saying he's shit.
Juve are shit though. Like Vlahovic,
yeah, but they're not actually. They're like 3rd.
Vlahovic is a great finisher. You guys should see the goal he scored.
How many goals has he scored? He doesn't even start. I'm not saying he's shit.
No,
he doesn't start for Juve.
They fucking start Milik over him. So
Yeah.
that tells you enough, really. But yeah, he's a good player, but he's just, to me, he's just like literally the Serbian version of Romelu Lukaku. Not the greatest touch, both left-footed, both a lot of power, both strong sprint speed, but acceleration is quite average. Both look like they should be much better with their head, considering their height, but they're not. I don't know. Too many similarities for me to.
Is he quite overweight too as well?
No, maybe not that.
Oh, okay.
You know, but he hasn't lived in London yet, so give him time. But yeah, Aaron, finish it off for us. Who will be your first choice for the striker position?
Ivan Toney, but he's probably going to be out for a fair while, so I think that takes that off the table. So if not Ivan Toney, then Victor Osimhen.
Fair enough. And ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time we round this one out. But I've realized I haven't even told you once today. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. Hit that like button. Please do subscribe to Charlie's channel, Blue Brothers. Or is it not the Blues Brothers anymore? Is it just Blue Brother now?
Yeah, I changed the name because
I know, but I need to remember what the
literally just that, mate. Yeah.
There you go. It's obviously linked down in the description. Just click the @ Blue Brother CFC. That will take you to his channel. Help him get to 3K subscribers before the end of the season.
100 to go, mate.
Exactly. So we can easily do that. Ladies and gentlemen, head over there. Help him get that. We should get that over the line for sure. Of course, like I touched on earlier already, please do check out Pice's website, londonsfirst.com, as well as his Twitter. And shout out to Aaron for giving us his time, for telling us that we are staying up. I'm buzzing. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Rasmus Højlund, we could have spoken about him, but we did in the last stream. So let's leave that one. Let's all go watch Madrid against City. Let's see how that one goes. Shall I ask you guys predictions for the game tonight? What do you reckon, Charlie?
2-1 City.
All right. Aaron?
Hala Madrid, baby, 2-0.
All right. Pice, prediction?
3-1 City, but I want Madrid to win so bad, man.
All right. I reckon City go through, but tonight I reckon like 2-2, maybe.
If Madrid play like they did against us, they're getting fucking battered.
Yeah,
they need to actually play like Real Madrid.
It's true. It is true. Marcos Alonso is my first choice, number 9. Bring him back. Well, and on that note, Adash, we round this one out. Thank you guys for watching. Upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.